Two-time world champion and two-time Olympic silver medalist Evgeniya Medvedeva gave a huge interview to Ksenia Sobchak. In this video about the important part of the interview. Evgeniya Medvedeva about the 2018 Olympics. How'd I look at the events that happened there? From above, smiles. I went through many stages, denial, acceptance, tried to bargain with myself and with others. Me in 2018 and me now, as typical as it may sound, are two completely different people. If I look at myself in 2018, I probably won't recognize myself, and vice versa. My personality has changed so much. I went through many stages after the Olympic Games, which, of course, hit me. But at the same time, it was such a point of my mega personal growth. I look at the events of 2018 as something that had to happen for me to become myself. Tell me honestly, do you still have any resentment towards Eteri Tutberidze? Not at the moment. I am being completely honest. As of today, there is absolutely no resentment, only gratitude. We have the most wonderful relationship with Eteri Georgievna. I now go to her rink in a completely calm mode. She very kindly provides me with ice time, and halls, and doctors. Now everything is fine with us. Did you have some kind of reconciliatory conversation after those events? Did she somehow explain that she let Zagitova perform elements that were higher in qualification? No, there was no such conversation with her. Whether this is right or not, I do not know. I was brought up in such a way that you always need to talk. Perhaps I would like to, but in our situation with Eteri Georgievna it is not particularly necessary, because I have grown up, I understand everything anyway. I understand that there were facts anyway. The Olympic Games, and me with a broken leg, these are certain risks. If you think purely strategically, I can understand the stakes of both the Figure Skating Federation and Eteri Georgievna. Still, rivalry within the group, although difficult, must exist. Alina appeared, an incredibly talented athlete. Everything that she performed technically questions, absolutely. The scores that stood at the Olympic Games, this is not subject to discussion at all, because there are certain facts. You can open the scores and understand who really skated to first place, and who to second. And on a human level, what did she perform? That's exactly the whole story around the 2018 Olympics. It's more about interpersonal relationships, emotions, forced lyricism somewhere on our part. It was unpleasant, but on the other hand, now, as an adult, I can judge and think that, probably, if I really wanted it and wasn't scared, I could have moved the cascade to the second half. I could have come up with something to crawl out of that hole after the short program. But I didn't do it. And now, from the height of everything I've lived through over the years, I think, well, thank God that I didn't do that. Of course, I wanted to win. When an athlete is raised from the age of 3 and an Olympic gold medal is elevated to a cult, when they constantly hammer into you that you are my little Olympic champion. And this gold, Olympic champion, it constantly sounds. And when you don't become one, it hits your immature psyche. Evgeniya Medvedeva on religion. I grew up in a family where my mother is an atheist, and my grandmother was very religious. Probably, this is the old school of my late grandmother. To go to church every Sunday, always to the priest before performances, always amulets, crosses, they covered me with everything. And in sports, and in general, I often heard this phrase as a child, Evgeniya, don't do this, fear God. At some point, I really began to be afraid. I was baptized, now I don't wear a cross, I'm looking for my own. I want to be religious, but I need time for this. What do you mean, I'm looking for my own? Do you want to find some other religion? No, not another religion. I want to understand what faith will mean to me, and how I will follow it. That is, now I live with the understanding that for now my opinion about religion is not firmly established. I try to just listen, watch and form my own impression of religion. I am more about orthodoxy, of course. But for this I need a few more years to be sure, yes or no. I know that many athletes cross themselves or read prayers before entering the arena. Did you have any similar rituals? I have always talked to God. And this is evident, it seems to me, in all my performances that can be found. I believe that God is with me, but I don't want, I guess, to go into these judgments that God sees everything. Fear God, God will punish you. I have heard so much of this in my life that now I simply live with the understanding that there is someone or something from above, here it is with me, and for now that is enough for me. I just watch to determine the final image for myself of what I believe in. Evgeniya Medvedeva on quadruple jumps. In 2019, girls started coming out, into the adults, with quadruple jumps. Basically, society started putting pressure on them with this. Look, you don't jump, but they do. And you're already done in sports, you're already a cow on the ice, you won't achieve anything anymore. I was so tired of hearing this that I thought, let me try one more time. I more or less understood that I didn't have much chance to learn anything there anymore. And how did you understand that I didn't have much chance? From physical sensations, I understand that I don't jump like that, I don't spin like that, I don't have it in my nature anymore. Technical preparations for a quadruple jump should have been laid down earlier from the start. But my body and brain are so used to the fact that we jump triples, in my head there is no awareness at all that I can twist one more turn. And I think, you know what? I'm going to go and kill myself with this quad saukow. I just went and slammed it, at a show in Japan. Why did you eventually stop studying and training it? I'll say a phrase that may sound really stupid in relation to quadruple jumps and figure skating in general, and, which, few people will understand, but it's true, it wasn't fashionable. Quads weren't needed. I remember this training session 2 days before flying out to the 2016 World Team Championships. I went into a quad saukow, landed it on my butt, but adequately, without a disaster, it could have been there. I made several attempts, I had to fly out in 2 days. And the coaches were basically just scared, a new element, extreme, scary, God forbid he gets injured, he won't go to the World Team Championships, no need. Well, there are world records with triples, so triples like this are enough, Evgeniya, no need. I'm like, well, damn, probably really not necessary. And I won the 2nd World Championship on triples, and I'm already in my 3rd season on triples, the scores are good. And it seemed that quads were not needed. It was just really unfashionable, not in trend, no one was jumping quads. So I stopped. Evgeniya Medvedeva about Alexandra Trusova's hysteria at the 2022 Olympics. When I saw Sasha's emotions, my first feeling was envy that she could allow herself to splash out these emotions, but I couldn't. I behaved very restrainedly in 2018, as soon as I found out the scores. But I completely understand Sasha's emotions. I think I can take this responsibility and say that these emotions were not about her really hating this sport. It's just here and now, everything that's happening, everything that's piling up, when you still go out and land those miserable 5 quads, naturally, you're counting on gold. But you don't get gold. And of course, you can say whatever you want in that moment. She decided to say that she hated this sport. It looked like a death sentence for the whole sport. These tears, the fight for medals and such disappointment, my God, an athlete lives his whole life for this moment. And suddenly emptiness. Yes, it's emptiness. It can be compared to the loss of something important in your life, with the loss of a goal, with loss. Because here's the goal, the medal, and you're a centimeter short of reaching it. And that's it, bam, darkness, no light at all. You think that your life is just ending. That's why I completely understand Sasha's emotions. I was so tense then. Why were you tense? Because I was thinking about how I looked, God forbid my mascara would run, laughs. I wanted to burst into tears, but I held on tight. These are my methods. Sasha Trusova is more like that, I'll say it this way, she can afford it. That is, in this regard, she is tougher, more solid, she can absolutely push her line. I am more of a performer by nature. That is, they told me don't cry, I won't cry. They told me to jump a cascade in the first half, I will jump a cascade in the first half, because that's what I was told. That's probably why I turned out to be such an athlete, because I listen, I do it. Sasha is more proactive in this regard, all the quads she learned. She did them all by herself. I remember when I was learning them as a little girl. She would go in, hit those quads so hard that it would be a nightmare. All the coaches would just squint, close their eyes and say, Sasha, don't. Sasha went and did it because she thought it was necessary. And this is probably the difference in our characters, and that is why we had such different reactions. Because when I was learning the quadruple at 15, I kept hitting it, and they told me, Evgeniya, don't do it, you'll kill yourself, and I was like, okay, then I won't. Although, it would seem, you can go and do it, right? That is why I am a performer. Sasha is more proactive, and, apparently, the expression of emotions is also different because we have such different personalities. But I understand her perfectly. Evgeniya Medvedeva on sexualization in sports. There were many such moments, but, probably, in our sport this is considered the norm. Personally, I have never taken such phrases and discussions harshly, because I roughly understood what was what. It's not that it somehow traumatized me, I will just state the facts. I am thin, slender, at 14 I was a skeleton. For example, to say to a 14-year-old athlete, put some foam rubber under her, she has no boobs. How are we going to earn components, a second mark, artistry? Well, yes, I heard it addressed to me. Put some foam rubber under yourself, are you a girl or what? Why don't you have boobs? Something like that was always the case. Harassment? In my case, there was none. Have you seen anything like that? With my own eyes, no, I haven't seen it, honestly. I've heard it when I hear it. It seems to me that in figure skating, there is still a distance, some kind of subordination. Because I have never seen such actions with my own eyes, nor have they been towards me. Only verbal ones, conditionally for the good of the cause. Put some foam rubber under her, the components will be higher. Evgeniya Medvedeva on raising the age limit. All the high-ranking medals, gold of the World and European Championships, that I earned at the age of 15, 16, 17. I should keep my mouth shut here, because I won everything at that age. Was it easier for me then? Yes. Is it right to do it? I don't know, probably. If they think it's necessary, let them do it. My story has already happened. Is it related to Zagitova? They wanted to raise this threshold even before that, after the 2014 Olympics. Is it fair to separate children and adults? I would probably allow it and see what comes of it. Because figure skating is still a very young sport, and we are all used to girls under 20 performing under the label women. And in our reality, this is normal. But if the sport wants to develop, wants some changes, and if the federations think it is necessary to change the age limit, we don't decide anything here, really. We are told the rules change from season to season. Nobody asks us. So we play by certain rules, we accept them and do everything in our power, everything we can. As a spectator from the outside, I would like to see what comes of it. Just out of interest. Evgeniya Medvedeva about KAMILA VALIEVA. This whole story took such a serious turn because there is no answer to this question. We will never know. Of course, it was terribly difficult to watch, especially knowing how the entire team of Eteri Georgievna Tutberidze works. There were a lot of accusations, both towards the doctors and especially towards the coaches. I won't even say anything about KAMILA, something outrageous was happening there. The version with grandfather's medicine? I watched this whole situation in exactly the same way, from the side. I don't know more or less details. As a person who trained for many, many years in the team of Eteri Georgievna Tutberidze, I can say this. We are taught from childhood that if you come to competitions, it is better to eat your own food, if possible. Don't go to the canteens. Sports espionage? I don't know. I'll tell you how I came to the World Championship. Skates are always with you. God forbid you turn away from your skates, you don't know what will happen there. Was it ever that they cut my skates there, made them dull? No, that never happened. Skates and suits are always with you. Because other athletes had variations on the theme of their suits being cut right before going on stage. There was a story that a girl's performance costume was cut out with scissors right here, gestures at her chest, and her panties were cut off. You can't go out in that. She had to skate in a training costume. That happened, not to me, but to others. That's why, to be on the safe side, you always have your costume and skates with you. Covers, socks, silicone that you put under, everything is always with you. You take water, check it, press it so that there are no holes. You check that it is sealed, open it, drink. And if you put the bottle down and turn away from it, turn around, take it and throw it away. It should always be in your hands. Ateri Georgievna herself taught us all this. If someone offers you a pill, twirl your finger at your temple and run as far away as possible, taking all your belongings, because God forbid. Personally, I was very intimidated in this regard. I mean, I was following her super closely, and everyone on Ateri Georgievna's team was like that. Actually, that's why there are even more questions about how this happened. I don't know. So you're assuming that someone could have mixed something in? Or did she just take responsibility and stupidly decide to improve some result there? I'm not assuming anything, I just really don't know. Stripping her of gold medals? It was a real public flogging of our entire team. Were you anywhere near KAMILA at that moment? Did you see what was happening to her? Of course, I was probably a little closer than the outside observers, than the fans of figure skating, since we are all in the same field. But at the time of such active investigations, I took a little step back, because you have to leave a person alone in time. I was sure that everything would be fine with KAMILA physically, if we are talking about this, because she has a wonderful mother who takes care of her. Also, VALIEVA, KAMILA's mother. Ed, is always with her, the most rationally adequate woman. For this, I was absolutely calm. It is clear that for KAMILA, as a growing person, this story will 100% leave an imprint. I think that she will decide for herself, to work through it or not. Everyone is looking for their own ways. Even my story left an imprint on me, although, it would seem, nothing happened at all in 2018 for me personally compared to what happened to KAMILA. How this story will affect her further perception of life in general, in principle, because all this is not limited to sports. I think we will see in the next few years. Will she return to sports? Listen, she is jumping great now. KAMILA is back on the ice, performing in ice shows and doing it beautifully. She comes out, jumps, has restored almost all triples, as far as I know from the videos on social networks. I am extremely happy to watch her, because she is incredibly beautiful. She is so beautiful, contented, happy on the ice, she jumps her triple jumps. So I think if KAMILA wants to, she will come back. That is, purely in terms of physical data, if you look at her now. It is clear that these will probably not be 5-meter quadruple jumps, but I think triples will also be enough for her comeback. Evgeniya Medvedeva on life in Canada. Canada is absolutely not like Russia. We even joked that Toronto is a city where old people come to die. It is quiet there and there is nothing to do. I came there to train, but it lacked some of the Moscow action. It was very unusual. At first, we came there with my mother. My mother doesn't speak English. And I came as a carrier of English, not a native speaker. And the first 2 weeks were difficult, because my brain was adapting. I simply stopped understanding what was being said to me in the middle of the day. I just switched off, didn't hear comments, assignments, what to do. Little by little, I started getting used to it, and I lived there for about 2.5 years. Do you miss Canada? What was cool there? What do you maybe miss? I don't miss it. There's nothing like that. It was cool, that it was. A cool experience. But now my English is excellent. Do I regret it? No, absolutely not. What didn't you like? What's different from here? I really didn't like the apartments there. It's just a nightmare. The layout is terrible. And everything looks like it's not real, and you're living in a set. I think it was more about my perception. I understood that I wouldn't live here for long. I usually like it when I buy something for my home, so that it's with soul, and I feel like I'm at home. That wasn't the case there. And it was very difficult morally. I tried as hard as I could to somehow get closer to my standard, normal state, with food, cooking, shopping. There were grocery stores with cottage cheese, with cheese curds, dumplings. Still, everything was not the same. And it was hard. But I didn't come there to have fun, I came there to train. Evgeniya Medvedeva on returning to Tutberidze. I returned in 2020 when the coronavirus began. And the story of my return looks a little different than everyone thinks. Canada is the first country to start a lockdown. In a month, I have an ice show in Japan, Sailor Moon, where I was supposed to skate the main role. We contact the organizers of this ice show and say, guys, there is no ice here, the rink is closed, it was melted, lockdown, that's it, nothing works, what are we going to do? And they are like, we hear all the news and we know that Canada might close the skies, let's have you fly to Japan early, get ready for the show. We quickly pack our bags, fly to Japan. Canada closes the skies. I sat there in quarantine for 10 days, came out, went on the ice, everything is fine. The show is cancelled because Japan also started to close for lockdown. I just got stuck there, sat there for 3 months. When I already realized that my visa was expiring, I went to the embassy, asked to find a plane either to Toronto or Moscow. It doesn't matter where, just get me out of here. And it turned out that, give or take, a week later, there was a plane that was taking Russians back to their homeland. That's how I ended up in Moscow. If it weren't for the coronavirus, I would have continued training in Toronto. I came back, and the Figure Skating Federation, "You're still in the sport, you're skating, stop playing games, let's push you back." I thought, well, I need to train, I need to work. I thought, okay, let's do it. That is, everything is much simpler and not as prosaic as most people think. But this does not cancel the picture. The return of the prodigal son, your return to Tutberidze. How did it happen? It was a personal meeting after the test skates. My back was already hurting a lot. I understood that I would not be able to handle such serious loads. I had a personal conversation with Eteri Georgievna. We sat for an hour, discussed what was happening to me in Canada, what they had here during all this time. And she said, let's try, come to choreography, to the warm-up. I understood that if I came back to Eteri Georgievna, the loads there were much more serious than they gave me in Canada. Perhaps my back would fall off. I took all the risks. And did you apologize to Eteri Georgievna? So sit down and apologize? No, and Eteri Georgievna too. We are such strong, proud women who understand everything perfectly well, but stick to their own line. That's why Eteri Georgievna Tutberidze is a great coach. That's why Evgeniya Medvedeva now. But she could have refused to take you without an apology. She did. So she loves you, then? So, she loves. We have a great relationship now, actually. Many people criticize her methods, say that it is too harsh, that it is not right. There are these videos. Is it possible to become an Olympic champion without this harshness? There is always a chance to become an Olympic champion, but it seems to me that in our country the probability of you becoming one is much higher. Because there will always be a kick. And this is just a difference in schools. It seems to me that in the West they simply have a simpler attitude to this. If an athlete does not want to at the moment, then no one will force him. Another such moment, a difficult one, which affected my result in Canada, when I was training, because no one forced me there. Evgeniya Medvedeva on her breakup with her lover Dmitry Chigirev. We are no longer together recently. This happens in life when people understand that they are no longer on the same path. No big scandals, nothing, just two adequate adults talked and realized that something had to be done. Decided to break up. We dated for almost 2 years. There was a lot of love in our relationship, a lot of mutual understanding. I was not jealous of my partner. It was absolutely normal for me. I understood from the beginning that the guy was an athlete, a pairs wrestler. That's it, this is not discussed further, because there is a sports career. And the only thing I can do is just support. Evgeniya Medvedeva on changing her sports citizenship. Your now ex-boyfriend Dmitry Chigirev decided to change his sports citizenship. And now he will compete for Uzbekistan. How do you feel about this? I don't feel about it. Would this be acceptable for you, under certain conditions? That is, can you imagine yourself in his place? No, I can't imagine it, because I have never been in sports in such conditions as now. I don't know, honestly. I'm just an outside observer, and that's it, it's his coaching team's decision too. I've heard a million times that an athlete who competes at the Olympic Games or World Championships under a neutral flag is a traitor. And I've heard it when people said it to my face. Everyone forgot that we competed under a neutral flag in 2018. In Beijing, the girls, KAMILA, Anya Sherbakova, Sasha Trusova, all competed under a neutral flag. Did anyone say that they were traitors? No, ours. It seems to me that the same attitude is happening now. Even though the flag is changing, people know where the sport comes from. For example, the same Nastia Gubanova, a figure skater who won the European Championship, changed her citizenship, and competes for Georgia. Can an athlete who dedicated his life to sport change his sports citizenship for the sake of his victories or not? I'll say that we have an individual sport. Everyone decides for themselves. This is a purely personal opinion. I don't know what I would have done, but I performed under a neutral flag. Can you imagine, for example, that you would have performed for Armenia? I doubt it. I received offers, but I refused them. Evgeniya Medvedeva on ending her career. I don't have the syndrome of an underskated athlete. I'm only talking about myself now. When I miss those times, I come, sit on the couch, turn on the big TV and just enjoy what I saw then live. The only performance in the history of figure skating that brought me to tears was Elena Savchenko's performance at the 2018 Olympics. Specifically, in my case, I ended my career not when I couldn't move towards my goal. When I couldn't even crawl towards my goal. The only option was to leave myself alone and not torment myself, not to drag it out. I once wanted to quit figure skating, and I did it. And it was super timely, as it turned out. For me and for all my family and friends. So I gave myself a big gift then, that I allowed myself to quit the sport. Super game. Who would I like to skate with in a pair? Yevgeny Plushenko or Patrick Chan? Patrick Chan. It's somehow not patriotic, why not Plushenko? I don't judge by the flag, but by how I remember them as figure skaters. Can you explain to people who are not into figure skating why Patrick Chan is better than Plushenko? The 2011 World Championships, when they were moved from Japan to Moscow because there was a major earthquake in Japan. Patrick Chan arrives, who was winning everything back then because he would go out and skate cleanly. He was always distinguished by the fact that he skated like a real dancer, who sat at your feet. He would give one push and skate half the rink. Yevgeny Plushenko is an athlete who was a motivator for a generation earlier than me. Patrick Chan is the era of my growing up. That's why Patrick Chan, because I simply grew up on him. Mark Kondratyuk or Yuzuru Hanyu? I would have said Hanyu before, but now I would say Mark Kondratyuk, because I already skate with him in a pair in Carmen. Axel Paulsen or Ulrich Saukow? Saukow. This is my favorite jump, thank him very much for inventing it. Indeed, the Saukow is the only triple jump that I can still jump well. Sergey Grinkov or Alexei Yagudin? I will also be skating in pairs with Alexei Yagudin in Carmen. I have done this many times, and I still have to work with him on the microphone in pairs. Therefore, if there was an opportunity, I would choose Sergey Grinkov, of course. Quarterfinals, Saukow and Chan? Patrick Chan. Grinkov and Kondratyuk? Grinkov. Finals, Grinkov or Chan? Grinkov. Why? The greatest athlete, the greatest tragedy. Although I did not observe their path with Katya Gordieva with my own eyes, I searched for a long time for all kinds of information about them. Where, how. There was such a couple, Gordieva, Grinkov. Incredibly beautiful, they loved each other madly. In the end, they won everything, got married, and had a beautiful daughter. One day, as far as I know, not from first-hand experience, Sergey began to complain that his back hurt in the shoulder blade area. It turned out that it was not his back, but his heart. And one day he simply died right on the ice due to cardiac arrest. Very suddenly. They were an incredibly bright couple, who were a guiding star, it seems to me, for a huge number of figure skaters. And it is truly a universal tragedy that he is gone. All the videos I watched of them performing, firstly, Sergey was an incredibly beautiful person. Brad Pitt of figure skating? Yes. I think that he is very reliable as a figure skating partner, and that is important. That is why Sergey Grinkov,